Welcome back guys. The Arks of Omen campaign. I've made it into 3 separate videos. This one is about Abaddon the Despoiler, the second is about Angron, and the third is about the siege of the Dark Angel's fortress monastery, the Rock. So let's do this. The campaign began as a part of the Greater War of Beasts, when Black Legion forces led by Warpsmith Vask, engaged in the Vigilus warzone, raided the Mechanicum artificial moon of Pergamatros, after launching a data assault upon the moon's power and control systems which revealed the hidden moon's location. The Black Legion vessel, Unrepentant, appeared in the system. Despite formidable defenses including defense lasers, Skitarii, and a maniple of Reaver Titans of the Legio Maledictus, Vask and the Dark Mechanicus Magos, Persephora Hexxen, led overwhelming forces which swept aside their foes. Dark Magos Juregg was able to penetrate the moon's data vaults, hoping to gather data for the Despoiler's favor. However, unknown to the Magos, the data-tome he brought back to the Vengeful Spirit was part of a greater plan by the Daemon Vashtorr. Months later, as Abaddon oversaw the continued repairs to his flagship the Vengeful Spirit, the data-tome proved to be a portal that allowed Vashtorr to manifest on the bridge directly in the presence of the Despoiler. Upon meeting, Vashtorr presented Abaddon with a prophecy of a burning sky and stars blazing bright enough to drown out the darkness. He was candid with the Despoiler, declaring that while the ruler of the Forge of Souls, he was unsatisfied with his status and wished to become a 5th Chaos God in his own right. Vashtorr believed this could be achieved if he could fulfill this prophecy and offered an alliance with Abaddon. The Despoiler was unimpressed, and Vashtorr bid that they move together on the nearby world of Magdalor to demonstrate the value of an alliance where the next fragment of the mysterious key lay. Magdalor was the home world of the troubled Iron Angels Space Marines, and they committed themselves to fight to the end upon the arrival of the Vengeful Spirit in their system. Black Legion and cultist forces landed on the surface of Magdalor, while the Despoiler, Falcos Kibre, and his Bringers of Despair launched a teleportation assault into the heart of the Iron Angels fortress monastery known as the Angel's Crown. After defeating 3 Iron Angels librarians, it became clear that the Iron Angels' resistance was ultimately doomed, as their forces were overwhelmed by the traitor onslaught. After the carnage, and soon enough, Abaddon met the shackled demons and mutant engines of Vashtorr's own host. Here, the Iron Angels chapter, Master Naiman, and the last of the First Company were staging a final stand. However, thanks to Vashtorr, horrifying monstrosities erupted from the machineries of the Apothecarian and Reclesium, as Abaddon himself struck down Naiman. After the battle, Vashtorr's forces claimed a tall marble pillar floating in a suspensive field, dubbed by the Iron Angels the Oathing Stone. After learning of its true purpose as a fragment of the key, Abaddon let out a great laugh and became committed to working with Vashtorr. Over the next several months, Vashtorr used his techno-sorcery to corrupt enormous space hulks, transferring them to what became known as the Arks of Omen, and their purpose was to assail worlds throughout the galaxy to secure further fragments of the key. Each Ark was commanded by a champion of chaos, either one of Abaddon's own subordinates or an allied Chaos Lord that had pledged fealty to the Despoiler. The Arks Unleashed. Even as Vashtorr labored to construct additional Arks, Abaddon unleashed those he had already built upon the galaxy. More than a dozen Arks made up this initial onslaught, each accompanied by a flotilla of chaos vessels in dark contrast to the fleets of the Indomitus Crusade. Notable assaults launched in the first wave were conducted against the ice moons of Corprak and the industrial sprawls of Vengaloria. After weeks on bloody siege on the shrine world of Loom 4, Iron Warriors Warpsmith Zagra, commander of the Ark of Omen Ogre, tore open the world's innermost reliquarium to secure a key fragment, which took the form of an ancient fire-blackened cogitator bank held in a stasis field. On Hasp, Alpha Legion agents penetrated an ancient dig site to secure a key fragment that appeared to be a meteorite embedded in the planet's bedrock. Upon recovery of a key fragment, they were presented before the war portal aboard each Ark and claimed by Abaddon and Vashtorr. On Agamedes, the Ark Bloodmaw and its escorts began a month-long conflict against the maniples of Graja that saw entire planets depopulated. Amidst the Raspita cluster, the bane of life, plunged into an ongoing war between the leagues of Votan of the Kronos hegemony and the Arks of Vask Kalkaraka. At the Serpassa Nebula, Flint Master Thafak of the Night Lords found his pale fleet beset at every turn by Eldar of Ulthwé and Dark Eldar of the Cabal of the Iron Throne. By the time the second wave of Arks of Omen was launched, the corrupted hulks were now present across every Imperium segmentum and many major war zones. Sometimes they ignored Imperial holdings altogether, targeting worlds inhabited by orcs, Tyranids, or even other heretic factions to claim their prize. Had it not been for the presence of the Arks themselves, Imperial authorities would not have placed these incidents as a part of a larger pattern. Famed Lord Inquisitor Cortes of the Ordo Malus received word from the Eldar of the larger Chaos plan. The Inquisition responded accordingly with investigation teams to the Pale Fleet's true purpose, and while several Arks were boarded and purged at a great cost during Imperial counterattacks, many more continued to wreak havoc upon the galaxy. One of the most notable Chaos assaults took place on the fortress world of Cortosa III, garrisoned by over 200 Imperial Guard regiments. At the heart of its forum primus was a martial museum, which held a key fragment in the shape of a sword. However, thanks to its psychoseers, the High Command of the world had foreseen the Chaos assault even before it arrived, and thus when the Ark Augur arrived in system, it faced not only Imperial Guard, but also a Sisters of Battle Convent and Black Templars force. Due to the Ark's advanced navigational systems, it was able to bypass these loyalist reinforcements and rapidly assault Cortosa III itself. The assault was led by the Sons of Rot, under Gulthorg the Blighted, who sought not only to acquire the key fragment for Abaddon, but also secure the planet in Nurgle's name. To that end, Lord Gulthorg deployed the Plague Crows and Vermin Guard, with dealing with the Imperial fleet in the system, while he, the Sons of Rot, his Morpedix Traitor Guard regiments, Dark Mechanicus Vivisectors, and the Chaos Knights of House No launched an assault on Cortosa itself. After ferociously contested landings, fighting erupted across the Munifica Maxima, the fortified mountain range of Absolutist Colossi, and the training plains of the Expanse Marshal. Viral weapons reduced thousands of loyalists to a bubbling slime, out of which demons of Vashtorr emerged. However, a huge loyalist armored spearhead swept between the towers of the Arcadia Ballistas and into the Expanse Marshal, throwing back House No Knights. At the same time, a vicious orbital battle erupted as the Imperial reinforcements attempted to punch through the traitor blockade. Costly boarding actions saw vessels on both sides scattered and destroyed. In the end, the Imperial Defenders' unity proved to be the traitors' undoing, at least as far as the Sons of Rot were concerned. As rival Chaos warbands fought in their own, Gulthorg was forced to abandon command of the Ground War and return with many of his own Sons of Rot to garrison his Ark against Imperial assaults. This was the moment Alpha Legion forces concealed within the traitors had waited for, and they hijacked Vox channels, which caused a portion of the traitor host to abandon their positions and throw themselves for some primus. The frenzied assault succeeded in penetrating the fortress and securing the key fragment, but traitor positions across the greater system fell apart. By the second wave, it was becoming clear these Chaos assaults were part of a greater strategic coordination and not isolated space hulk raids. Despite this, it was still difficult for the foes of Chaos to understand what Abaddon's goal was or where his Arks would appear next. As the Arks drove deeper into the furthest reaches of the void, they attracted the attention of alien horrors, such as the Calavasi and Enslavers, who managed to damage the Ark Blackened Tower. The Ark Soaping God soon found itself boarded by swarms of Hive Fleet Kraken, forcing Scourge Master Olgata and his surviving forces to retreat deeper into their vessel and resist the invaders. Despite these setbacks, the Arks continued on their mission. On the tomb world of Vol, the Ark Beast in Scarlet called the slumbering Sherakan Dynasty Necrons unawares and tore the key fragment from them before departing. Unknown to the Thousand Suns sorcerer Lord Hasumet, the slain Necron Lord Sumatatek was promptly resurrected and outraged by the dishonorable attack. He gathered a fleet of his own and set out to bring vengeance down upon the beast in Scarlet. At the Unalba system, the Ark of Omen Colossus translated into local space, boosting a huge complement of traitor titans. The Pale Fleet scattered the defenders as Dark Magi and their servants descended upon the reach walls of Unapla to stay their greed. This proved an opening, which allowed the Ultramarines under Chaplain Julianus to board the Colossus. While nearly every Ultramarine of the boarding party was lost, they succeeded into causing an engine meltdown to destroy it. Meanwhile, Eldar Crusaders of the Diamond Talon boarded the Ark Devourer of Home, crippling its command center. Another Pale Fleet under Lady Maiev of House Grendel arrived in the Polyhedra system, expecting to claim their prize from local orcs. Instead, they found a thriving enclave of the Great Arthurian League. Squadkin had long since sliced apart the world Maiev sought, the key fragment having since been moved into the galactic core. Before she could disengage and pursue her prize, however, she sought to punish the squads for what they had done. Soon, a savage battle erupted. Other Xenos forces actively sought out the Pale Fleets to destroy them, such as Craftwall's Althwe, Saim Han, Yemelok, and their allies including Harlequins, Dark Eldar, Crusaders, and Exodites. Meanwhile, the Inquisitor Cortes was continuing his investigation into what the Eldar had warned him of. He and other Inquisitors requisitioned large resources to intercept and, if possible, destroy the Arks wherever they may appear. The Inquisition succeeded in having the Iron Hands under Captain Alba board the Morbidius, as well as the mysterious destruction of the Reaper's shadow. As the Ark Night Terror bore down on the ugly walls of the Sagnas Belt deep in Imperium Nihilus, its regent Dante led a counter-attack. However, when they arrived, they found the Pale Fleet wrecked, the corpses of dead Astartes withered in bolter rounds and withered in sulphurous residue. Ironically, many of the Arks were assailed by their fellow traitor Astartes, either to foil Abaddon's plans for their own agenda or simply to capture one of the vessels. Such was the case of an Ark which went missing in Red Crusader's territory within the Maelstrom. For their part, the Word Bearers broke the bindings placed upon the Ark Neverlight, unleashing a tide of demonic entities that consumed the attackers, defenders, and nearby mining world of Carmine. After the Ark Dirge Discordant was scuttled by Cornet forces at the Chiron system, while in search for a more significant key fragment, Abaddon took to the field directly to shatter the host. He then took his forces to Chiron Tertius, resolved to claim the fragment. In the ensuing battle against Imperial Guard, the Despoilers succeeded in smashing aside the Cadians and claiming the fragment. However, it was during the battle on Chiron Tertius that Abaddon was informed by Vashtorr that Angron had been spotted on the world of Malak Pale, a location of an important key fragment. The Red Angel was battling Indomitus Crusade fleet Quartus, and Vashtorr notified Abaddon that he wished to travel to Malak Pale himself to deal with the situation. Alright guys, stay tuned for the second part of the Arks of Omen campaign with the Red Angel Angron, so make sure to subscribe and hit that notification bell.